YouTube? This is Justin here, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today's video is about these electronic cymbals that I made out of low volume cymbals. There's 3 of them on this kit. I plan on making a 4th one as well as soon as I get some parts that I'm missing. But I have, as you can see here, a pair of hi-hats, 2-piece hi-hats, a crash cymbal and a ride cymbal. It's basically 14-inch hi-hats, 14-inch crash, and then it's a 18-inch ride cymbal. The 14-inch crash is actually the bottom hi-hat. And for my bottom hi-hat, I'm using a Pin-Tec practice plastic cymbal. And I'll show you why I did that here in a minute. But actually, this started out, I didn't plan on making all these cymbals originally. I just started with the ride because I already had this low volume cymbal kind of left over. And I was like, maybe I'll make something out of this and see if I can make an electronic cymbal. And so that's what I did. And actually, I started shooting the video about that cymbal specifically. So I'm gonna flash back in time and show you guys all the videos I made about this, and then I'll come back and show you all the updates I did and things that I did to especially make the hi-hats. I'm actually quite surprised at how well these hi-hats work. I actually didn't know if they would work at all, but they do. Another thing that surprised me quite a bit is I didn't think that these cymbals would be dual zone, but they are. I don't really know why, but they just sort of are because they're absolutely the most simple design that you could possibly do for making your own DIY electronic cymbals. But I think it has something to do with the way that the Roland module processes the information from the piezos. They probably wouldn't be dual zone in a different module because I've had things like that happen before on the TD27. This is the TD07, but I remember using red shots, which are single zone triggers, in the TD27 and ended up getting dual zone out of those somehow, which made no sense to me either. But so I think it's really like a Roland thing. But overall, they're really cool. I have them here in my teaching studio, and they feel really nice to play. They're not like the greatest triggering cymbals I've ever played in my life, but they're really not bad either. You can dial them in, and they work pretty good. So let me show you the specifics. First, let's flash back, and I'll show you the older videos that I did on making the ride, and then I'll cut to showing you the hi-hats and this crash. The crash is basically the same thing as the ride, but I'll show you that too. Anyway, here we go. Hey YouTube, it's Justin here, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today I've got a fun project. I've never actually done this before, but I think it should be very easy. What I'm gonna be doing is converting this 18-inch low volume cymbal to an electronic single zone crash cymbal, or you could use it as a single zone ride cymbal as well, which actually might be a little bit better. But anyway, I'm gonna be doing this with 2 simple parts. One of them is this Pin-Tec cymbal, single zone cymbal trigger box repair kit. These are about 15 bucks on Amazon. I'll post a link to this down below. And then this rubber strip, which is also available on Amazon, and this is only $10. I went for the gray color for the rubber strip because I figured it would match the color of the cymbal. All right, so this is the box after I opened it up. And as you can see, it's a very simple device. It just has 2 screws here with 2 bolts and nuts. So then theoretically, all I should have to do is unscrew those and then stick it through some of the holes here on the bottom of the cymbal. Hopefully they will line up. I think they probably will, but we'll see. All right, so the first thing I did was take the foam that the trigger replacement kit comes with. It has an adhesive back, so I peeled that off and I lined it up to 2 of the holes, basically right on the other side of the Mute logo, but a little bit closer to the bell, basically right on top of the Mute logo. So, well, you might not have a Mute low volume cymbal, but anyway, towards the bell, but not on the bell. Well, it depends on where you want your hot spot to be, basically. But I figure, that's how I've seen them, usually on the single zone cymbals that I've seen from Pin-Tec, which actually work quite well. They're usually right about there in that position. So I figured that would be a good place for mine. And I'm gonna go ahead and take the trigger box, and I'm going to have, so the jack is pointed towards the bell, and then run the screws through the holes. Luckily, they do line up. It's a little bit crooked. I mean, not totally, but just a tiny, tiny bit crooked. But I should be able to thread it through there as long as these screws fit through these holes, which I think they do. So let's do that now. And that was incredibly easy to install. So now the second step, actually there's gonna be 3 steps to this, but I only have 2 of the steps, but this will work already. But I actually ordered one other thing, which is this pad. I'll put that up on the screen as well. But you can also get from Pin-Tec, and it's basically, they call it a impact pad or something like that. But it's basically just a piece of rubber that sits on the cymbal. So that way, if you wanted to use it as a ride cymbal, that would take care of all the extra clanking sounds from playing on the cymbal itself. So I thought that would be a good buy as well. So the second part here is this edge stripping. That's that. Now I will probably use some kind of adhesive to connect or to attach the edge rubber to the cymbal. Probably some contact cement. Okay, so here it is. It's currently drying. Basically, the only glue that I had was this old Gorilla Glue, and this stuff is super strong, but it was so old that the nozzle was completely dried up and I couldn't get any glue out, so I literally had to cut the bottom of the tube off and get the glue out that way. But then I just went all around the edges on both sides and then put the stripping around the cymbal, and then I put a little piece of Gorilla Tape there to hold it at the seam while it dries. I may leave that on there, I may not, I don't know. But now I just have to let it dry. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to see how it is. So let's time warp. Okay, so here's the hi-hats, and let me just take this off so you can see what's going on under here. Basically, all this is the hi-hat itself. The top hi-hat is a Pintec, I think these are called an RS5 or something trigger. And then I have it glued on there, but I also have a piece of Gorilla Tape, which is super strong tape over top of it to keep it from falling off. And then I just have another piece of tape there to hold the plug part of it. And then there's a piece of cardboard glued to the bottom right here to basically stop the extra vibrations. And then I have this gray rubber trim that's going around the edge of the cymbal to mute it, as well as to make it a little softer when I hit it. I was going to go all the way around, but I ran out. But I actually ordered some more, so once I get the rest, I'm going to complete the circle around the cymbal edge. You can see on the other ones, I have it going all the way around when I show you those. So it's just a regular hi-hat clutch that's going through there. And what I'm using for my, actually let me unplug this. What I'm using for my bottom hi-hat is, like I said, it's a Pintec practice cymbal. You can buy these for very cheap. I think they're like $14 on Amazon. I'll post links to all this stuff down below. It's an XT series by Pintec. And what I did is I drilled out the hole a little bit bigger, then I drilled a second hole for the cable to go through. And then this is just a Go E-Drum hi-hat controller. And what's happening here is this is just sitting on top of the controller, letting the Go E-Drum hi-hat controller go through the bottom. And then I have a felt over top of that, and then this little cymbal washer sleeve type thing makes it just the right height to use a standard hi-hat clutch to push that down and create the correct kind of triggering. And then I just feed the cable through here and then plug it into the trigger on the bottom of the hi-hat. And that's it. It's incredibly simple, and it works. I was actually very shocked that it worked as well as it does. They work really well. They're single zone. They don't really have the phenomena of getting the dual zone triggering the way that the others do, or at least not that I've noticed. But maybe that has to do with it being a smaller cymbal and it just vibrates differently. I'm not really sure. But it still works just fine. You know, I didn't expect it to be like blowing me away or anything, but it feels nice to play on and they work pretty good. I'm going to get a pad to put on here, a rubber pad like I have on my ride cymbal. I'll show you. Well, I think you saw that already maybe, but I'll show you again here. I'm going to get one of those here just to make it a little bit quieter when I hit it. Of course, it won't feel as much like a real cymbal when I do that, but they still flex and bend the same way as a real cymbal does, I noticed when I play on the ride. So I prefer that, you know, just to have it to be a little bit softer of a hitting sound and then still feel pretty much like a real cymbal when I'm playing it. Okay, so let's move on to the crash now, and I'll show you what's going on up here. Now this one I did have a little bit of trouble with, but it seems to be working now. The trouble seemed to be having to do with the trigger box in there. These are another product by Pintec, which is also very cheap. It's only about $14 on Amazon. And these work great for the low volume cymbals because the holes line up pretty much perfectly with the holes that are already drilled into the low volume cymbals. And I've used this so far 2 times on 2 different cymbals and it's worked great. This one though, at first, when I first plugged it in, it kept choking all the time. But then I found out that this input jack was a little bit loose, and then I tightened that up and it seemed like it fixed it. So maybe that was the issue. It just kept choking it, but I don't see how it would choke at all because there's no switch on this cymbal at all, but maybe it was short-circuiting and thinking there was a switch in there. This is just the felt that's stuck in there. And then you can see again, I glued cardboard to the bottom to basically keep it from ringing or from vibrating too much, so I wouldn't get a bunch of double triggering. And to glue it, I just used standard contact cement, like rubber cement, which is the best thing because it flexes and it's, it dries quick and it's easy to use. Now, as far as the spinning goes, because some of you might be wondering about that, I haven't had too much of an issue, but they can spin. That could totally happen. Let's spin it around once just to get that cable on the other side. But I haven't had a problem with it. I think because the weight of the trigger box generally keeps them pointed in the right direction. But yeah, that's still working right. So that's working good. And now I'll just show you the ride one more time so you guys can see that. And it has the rubber. This is also from Pintec. This rubber strike pad is what they call it. And these come with this adhesive already on them, so they're really easy to put on there. The 18-inch was back ordered, so I just got a 16-inch one, and it works just fine on here. It's just a little smaller, but it's not that big a deal. And then this one, I get a good response with both zones. I can do the edge and get a crash sound, and I can do the center and get a bow sound. The TD-07 doesn't even have a bell if you're using 2 crashes, so it doesn't really matter that I don't have a bell zone on there. None of them are chokeable because I didn't, I only used a single trigger device on them. There's no switch, like I said. In order to make them chokeable, you need to have a membrane switch on the edge, and none of these have it. But I don't really care. I don't really choke cymbals that much, honestly. But for what I'm doing, it was more of an experiment just to see how much I could do with what I had and how inexpensive I could make them, and just to see how they would work. And they all work surprisingly well. And yeah, so pretty cool stuff. I'm having fun. I can't wait to do the last one. I'm going to replace this rubber cymbal over here with another crash. I actually have a regular, it's not a low volume cymbal, it's like a very inexpensive, cheap regular cymbal. And I'm going to try making one out of that. And I imagine it should work about the same way. Once I put the trim around the edge and the pad on it and everything, I think it'll be fine. Alright, so those are my insanely cheap DIY electronic cymbals. They came out better than I thought they would, and it was a fun little project. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell icon, check out Demonic Sweaters on Spotify, there's a link down below, as well as Mockman Mini, which is my solo project, and maybe you've seen some of the videos on here already. But anyway, thanks for watching, I'll see y'all really soon.